Villain of Truth, aka the Black Panther of Nigeria. Wow. Good morning, everyone. How are you all doing? Yeah, I woke up a little bit late. Um, a lot of stuff that I would have done this morning. I was not supposed to be around, but it's a great thing I'm around this morning because initially my plan for this morning was I had some calls, some people who had some issues, and in Nigeria, sometimes you feel people kind of want to manipulate people, take advantage of people, and when you try to fight back, if those individuals are kind of used to the law enforcement and few things, then they want to take advantage of you. So I was supposed to be at the station for certain individuals. I haven't known them before, but we had an agreement. I had the emergency call yesterday, and so I promised them this morning. But to God be the glory, before I woke up this morning, or even yesterday night, while we were even making some preparations, um, there's already been solution to the whole matter. That means the guy was able to actually connect with some people who could help with the situation, and that was a blessing on my own part. This morning, as I speak, there is a news that has been trending, which is the news about Tyrese. And more or less, that's what I will be addressing a little bit because we have a big program. We are going to be discussing on dating in the black culture. Yesterday night we spoke about um, can women be leaders? I had my views, and other people have their views. I brought out some subjects. Few people had uh, their own opinion and their view on it. But right now, I woke up this morning also and I heard the news that Tyrese has been arrested. Was he arrested or is he in jail? And the question was, why is Tyrese in jail? I decided I was going to talk about it just maybe 10, 15 minutes and then we'll be offline. You see, the problem, there's a very big challenge when it comes to, and I call it the Western culture stuff. It is always the Western culture thing. Now, something happened with Tyrese. And what is the biggest thing with Tyrese is he was being jailed for not giving his ex-wife, is it alimony? I think they call it alimony. And then that was why he was in jail. And when most men look at this subject, a lot of us would just focus on the idea of going to drink human milk. Uh, um, so a lot of people would ask themselves, why should we make decisions to date people in the black culture if things like this are happening to superstars like Tyrese and the rest of it? And the answer is kind of very simple. It's called child support. Okay, Simon Yekwere, thanks for that. It's called child support. Yeah. Now, I would have loved to hear some opinions. Do you think it makes sense for the government to have held him, put him in jail, probably because of child support? Most likely, I think that's what the news says. Child support. I think there are a few things when it comes to the Western culture that there are certain principles they do not understand. There are certain principles that is not understood. And if we did not get certain principles right, regardless of our intentions, we are still going to have same problem, no matter what we try to do. There are certain principles in life that are just that way. There's nothing you can do to change them. It's a federal law. Okay. I thought about it to a certain degree and I asked myself, okay, why is this? Why does this continuously happen in the black culture? Why do they always have this issue? What occurred to me was basically because I felt something is missing in the culture. And what is missing in the culture, I can only compare it to what is happening in the African culture. And part of the things, these are just hypotheses, but these hypotheses are actually real. Even in Africa culture, if a man understands that the biggest decision he's going to make in his life is who he decides to lay with. Because trust me, as an African man, I can use based of my desire, based of my status, to pick up a woman, basically maybe because I'm famous. And when I make a decision to pick a woman, I pick a woman who looks more glamorous simply because I am famous. And there's a price to pay when you make the wrong choice. I think I knew this through the lens of the story of my dad. All my friends in my entire life, I'm in my mid 30s, and in my mid 30s, I realized something took the life of my dad. And I saw some of the loopholes. And when I saw some of the loopholes, I realized it was all about circle. It has to do with who you get married to, because I'm from a polygamous home. Who you get married to, who are your friends around you, who are your families. You have to be very careful around these people because one way they have an effect on your entire life. It is easy anytime. We could remember yesterday we were having a conversation about can women be leaders and the rest of it. And most men say, keep arguing that women cannot be leaders. And I'm like, what do you even understand about leadership? Because when we talk about leadership, a lot of people are only thinking of power. And for me, when it comes to the idea of a woman, there's a difference between having a woman in your life and there's a difference between having a wife in your life. There are two distinctions there. The law applies to everyone. Nobody's above the law in the USA. Okay. He said it has nothing to do with culture or ethnicity. The law applies to everyone. Nobody is above the law in the USA. Now, when I said something has to do with culture, culture builds society. Culture don't just jump from heaven. Society don't jump from heaven. There is no society that has existed without some kinds of culture and traditions that have been applied. And at the end of the day, it forms the society that people live in. Now, there can be various kinds of law. Maybe in Nigeria, in family courts, there are different perceptions on how we look at it. But I can say it for a fact, in Nigeria currently, we begin to have baby mamas. In in Africa, specifically, looking at us historically, we were not used to having baby mamas in Africa. So the question is, why do we start having baby mamas in Africa? It is simply because we are copying the cultural lifestyle of a different of the Western culture. And where am I actually diving to? It is very simple. How you decide to select people in your life determines the amount of headache you would have in your life. I have been with certain individuals in my life. They have every opportunity, whenever people offend them, to take those people to jail, to arrest them, to do a lot of things. But they wouldn't, basically because of they have certain characters. Every character that most people build is mostly built due to traditions and culture. If you pick up a lady on the street and you tell that lady that, oh, I want you to be my girlfriend, and you don't even know where she came from, you don't understand her mom, you don't know her father, you don't know her culture, you don't know her history, you don't know anything about her. All you have to do is, where do you come from? I came from Texas. Where do you stay? I live in this place. And then you start having fun with such a person because you are in good terms. And then the person begins to produce baby for you. Humans are more conscious than that. A man who picks up a woman just like an handbag is definitely going to pay a price one way along the line. These things are already recorded in the Bible for centuries. If our ancestors knew this, how come we ourselves do not know it? The Bible says, he who finds a wife finds a good thing and obtaineth favor from the Lord. It didn't say he who finds a lady. It didn't say he who finds a woman. There's no guarantee in relationship. People change and some people grow apart. Pastors, children go through divorces. Exactly. Exactly my point. In life, there is no guarantee. And I think that is where the problem is. Now, if most of those guys who actually date these ladies that tends to be baby mamas, most of those guys who pay attention to impregnate ladies and are willing to separate themselves from those ladies simply because they understand that there's no guarantee in the relationship, but you're making babies with those people, shouldn't you be even more careful of the fact that you understand that the law of the nation, if this lady takes advantage of you, you have more price to pay? Shouldn't that even put the fear or a sense in the men to be very selective of the kind of woman they choose? And another question, how can you even get a good woman? Trust me, I know many ladies in my life that I've seen, not because I attach myself to them. I know many ladies just looking at them and paying attention to them. I know a lot of ladies that they will be with you for the good time, and in fact, your life will be very exciting. But when something happens along the line and you both are opposite, you are going to pay the price for every entertainment they've given to you. Maybe there's a time of breakup. Maybe there's a time when there's a different situation in the relationship. And why does this happen? You ask yourself a question. Why is it very easy for women in the Western culture to take their men to court? Here are my hypotheses. My hypotheses are very simple. It might be stupid, but basically because I was careful and I was able to apply certain principles in my life, it helped me out. You do not pick a woman from the streets. The first thing you have to know is to know where she comes from. If you pick a woman from the streets, it is easy for someone to detach from each other. Most people who watch me on live, it is easy for you to subscribe and it is easy for you to unsubscribe. Why? Because we just met ourselves on internet. The same thing applicable if I meet you on the street. If we have any conflict, it is easy for you to walk away. Either we have babies or we don't have babies. It is easy for one person to walk away. One thing that I mostly know about the Western culture, blacks, is that there are no cultures that are set in place for the union of both family, not the union of both people. And you see, we have been screwed up in our head due to religion that marriage is between a man and a woman. Marriage is beyond a man and a woman. It is between two generations. And if the man is the one making the choice, and you go towards a family, you're supposed to ask yourself, what kind of people are in the family of this lady? Because one way or the other, she is going to pick a trait from this particular family. I'm not saying they are going to be perfect. This is a generational evolution. You cannot guarantee what someone will do in the future. Marriage journey is unpredictable. Some women you consider street girls turns out to be good wives. In Nigeria, there is this product they used to sell, like electronics. It's a 50-50 chance. They tell you it might work and it might not work. So if they tell you it might work and it might not work, how do they call it? I've forgotten. There's a name we used to call it. Non-tested. They call it non-tested. So you can decide to put your money on non-tested. You can buy 20 products in the non-tested and 20 of them will be failure. But when you buy tested products, it doesn't mean that because you buy tested products, it doesn't mean that when you get home, the tested products will work. But because you test the product, there are more chances that when you go home with that product, it's going to work. What is the revolution? What is the generational evolution that we have? He said bad parents sometimes end up with good children, and some good parents end up with bad children. The story is always in the culture. The apple is never far from the tree. I can say it. Most children from good home, majority of good children comes from a good home. Majority of bad children comes from a bad home. I'm not saying there is no chances that bad children did not come from a good home, or good children does not come from a bad home. I'm saying majority of bad children comes from a bad home. If we can look at that particular stuff, you are seeing the principle aligning. Most times, a lot of people like to wrestle. This is the reason. I always understand one thing. If we kind of make some kind of choices that are not palatable, most times we try to defend not to reflect on ourselves, because then we have to admit that we have made the wrong choice, which is very difficult for a lot of people to do. When I come on live and I talk about my family, just because I have a good time with my family at this moment does not mean that there's no possibility that I might separate from my wife tomorrow or stuff like that. The chances are slim, but it is possible. But one thing I can say for sure, I am very certain of the kind of family I went to. I am just using an analogy. You don't have to go. I've moved forward from that. And I've said most bad children come from bad home. Most good children come from good home. It doesn't mean that some good children cannot come from a bad home, and it doesn't mean that some bad children cannot come from a good home. So I've moved past that. And I'm saying I can guarantee myself, that there's nothing that can happen between me and my spouse will be willing to see me in jail. Most ladies, even in Africa, most ladies that you pick from the street do not care if you go to jail the moment they are upset with you. You do not get married to somebody simply because of the good time. You choose somebody even knowing that if there's a bad time, who is this person going to be? You test people's character. How can you know someone's character when you don't know the home the person comes from? Trust me, I'm very good at insults. Very, very good. It's like a skill to me. The other time we spoke, you made a statement that 45 years ago when you were in Nigeria, so that means you most likely will be 65 or 70. You can be old and be financially successful, and you can still be useless to a lot of people. I am in Nigeria, and a lot of people from different parts of the world reach out to me to talk to me, to ask my opinion and my views on things. I bet you most people don't do that to you. Why? You have money, but you are not useful. It's simple. We call those people old fools. So it is easy for you to stand there to insult your African culture. The other time I was speaking, you are an example of a bastard. You would deny your nation and say that Nigeria is a very bad nation, Yet you go away with your name. Your name over here is called Sam Onyekwere. That's an African name. Why do you use our identity if you're not proud of us? You are a bastard. These are the crazy people who stay in the Western culture, run away from their ancestors, call their ancestors witches and wizards. Because if you know anything about culture and tradition, you can use the insight of it to mitigate a lot of things in your life. But you don't. If you think you have bullets, I have bomb. You are in the Western culture, but I have a better life than you. 1,000,000%. 1,000,000%. And so when you have been indoctrinated and you begin to act like them, trust me, I believe you don't have good relationship with your children. And why? Because you failed in having a good wife. So you support when you see people making wrong choices. Nothing is guaranteed. You don't even understand principle. And you have existed for over 60 years. You are a failure. You are a failure. Our ancestors cannot wait to put you under 6 feet under the ground because your existence was useless to the African culture. I know you had a mental issue the moment you said you like Kamala Harris, because there's no one who is insane, who has their brain intact, that would choose Kamala Harris. A 60-year-old person who prefers Kamala Harris, who denies people and wants to be with the black person. You as an African person, looking at your black brothers and sisters who you don't even know as a 60-year-old or 65 or 70 years old, or maybe you are even Methuselah, maybe older than Methuselah. You didn't understand what your brothers and sisters are going through because you don't understand your ancestors. I wonder your education level and academic qualification. That's your problem. All your life is about certificates. So you think your English will be able to do good. Now, let me put it in this way. I do not have good qualifications. Let's just put it this. For example, I don't have good qualifications. You do. How many good are you doing? We are in the technology age right now because you were talking about generational evolution. We are in a technology age right now. Why are you not using that same technology to inspire the young people that are coming with your experience in life? Because your experiences are foul. I must be an angry bird. Sorry. Let me talk to sensible people. eh, Samonye query. You know what query means? Remove the K. Put were. Were in Yoruba simply means madness. What are the principles of life that can make you make the right choice in life? What principles in life can make us make the right choice in life? And Samonye, let us even put it in this perspective. You're successful. Let me assume you're successful because I believe you're not. Let me even assume you're successful. I am in Nigeria, yeah. I have close to 7 property, if not more, and I don't pay tax, and everything is functioning properly. 7. Good. And it comes with agriculture, comes with rentals, comes with everything. You have been there. How many properties do you even have? You wanted to educate me about life and you started with insults. And no, let me tell you something that you don't really understand, Simon Yekwere. The moment you find yourself, let me now educate you. The moment you find yourself on someone else's platform, you made the decision to click on the subscribe button to go on that person's platform. And if you make the decisions to come to my platform, you should know that that is my space. In case you are not being educated, when you go to someone else's platform in a technology age, it simply means you are going to that person's space. And if you can't be respectful to that individual, then take your advice and shove it down your throat. Your advice can never make my life better. I never, for any reason, insult anyone first. I have never insult anyone first. There is no place I've ever been in my entire life that I would ever insult anyone first. In fact, if you insult me the first time, I give you a pass. When most people insult me, I let them go. The only reason why I would rebuttal to whatever you say is only simple. It is because I know you are of age. If a young person or a 36 years old insults me, I would never respond to you. But I believe when you are so old and you should have certain experience more than me, and you decide to insult me, then that means you already knew what should be coming. To humble yourself, humble me and lecture me. Humble me and lecture me. What do you mean by I can't humble myself? What is your definition of humility? Because whatever we have written is right here on the platform. Even if it's been deleted, it is still here on the platform. When I was speaking initially, you said it has nothing to do with culture or ethnicity. And I said relationship. This, you are talking about the law. And I'm saying, I don't care about law. I care about the woman. If you make the choice with the right woman, just because you choose the right woman in your life does not necessarily mean you and that right woman will be forever for the rest of your life. Something can happen along the way. Accident, death, sickness, all kinds of things can happen, and there's a possibility that you might separate. The question is that when you are making a choice, if someone does not come from a good structural background, the meaning of culture is that it builds certain kind of character in the individual. And you can see mostly these characters from the family the individual comes from. And when you can study where the family where the person comes from, it doesn't mean bad children cannot come from good family. It doesn't mean good family cannot come good children cannot come from bad family. I agree with you on that, but I say the chances are always different. And then you said there's no guarantee of relationship. Then you said there is a generational evolution, and I'm like, what has actually changed in the selecting of mankind? You make the wrong choice. Samson in the Bible dated Delilah and they shave his head off when you choose the wrong woman. And his people were telling him the culture and the traditions of the people you are going to meet. Don't look at this girl. Look at the culture and the family she's coming from. It should tell you a lot about what you are going to be expecting in life. Samson refused. He and the Holy Spirit, they shaved his head off. And then you says, I don't blame you. You have never lived outside Nigeria. Your thinking is very myopic. And you say that is not insult. When you said I've never lived outside Nigeria, my thinking is very myopic. And you said that's not an insult. The question is, you said some marriage starts rough and with time they can end up a perfect couple and vice versa. I can agree on that. The question is, what are the chances? Would you rather choose to go into a relationship that is rough? Because when you begin to make all these kind of excuses very okay, then that simply means you are telling the children, the generations that are coming, it is okay to start a relationship in a rough way. Maybe along the line, you will be able to fix it. But what are the chances? In life, there is no straightway jacket. But you have to ask yourself, what are the basic principles that would work? It is the principles that have been existing and the principles that don't change. These are the principles you work on. How many relationships did you know? Because we are talking about society right now. How many relationships did you know that started rough and it became good? And how many relationships that you know that became good that started rough? All I know is this: there are more chances of relationships starting very good and becoming rough when they did not really build the foundation of the relationship. They only use the good times to select and think that the relationship is always going to be good. I'm not saying there's no possibility. If I want to advise my son and my son is about to get married, why will I tell my son that you can date a girl even if the relationship is not good in the first place? Everything looks rough. No, maybe there's a chance that the relationship will work. Who wants to live their life under probability? I wouldn't make a choice under probability. I would make chances over possibilities. I will make choices over possibilities than probabilities. When you said, because you think I'm stupid because I'm from Nigeria and you don't know, there's a difference when you speak to me as a person. There's a difference when you speak to a side that is different from the individual you are actually seeing on your screen. That person is not stupid. When you say someone has not been out of Nigeria and that's why the view of that person is myopic. When I come on live, I always tell people there are possibilities of things I don't know. You can educate me. When you say my views are myopic, what does that actually indicate? Without you saying it, what you mean is that you have been outside the world, and because you have been outside the world, you know better than me. Knowledge is not based off that. It is not about how far you travel in life. You can travel to the whole world. It does not signify intelligence. It only signifies experience. Experience. You have to ask yourself, what are the experiences you have? A lot of people have experiences in life, and that experiences become traumatizing to them. Must I be traumatized? Must I have all the experience? In certain places, they call the red pill community. They will tell you you have to sleep with the whole woman so you can know the right woman. What kind of law is that? When I come from a culture and I understand my culture very well and the traditions, I have a ground to stand on and say that is wrong. Exposure is knowledge according to Igbo proverb. I didn't say exposure is not knowledge. I'm saying just basically because you travel to the old world does not necessarily mean that you have experience. There are a lot of ladies, for example, who have been to many places in the world. The question is, why are you moving around the world? Most people did not leave Nigeria or leave Africa and go to the Western culture because they are trying to be exposed. Most of them are going because they want to go and work. Just because you go there and work, you have experience of work. Just because you go there for lifestyle, you have the experience of a lifestyle. There are ladies who travel from one nation to another just to go and become hookup girls. They become experience of hookup girls. They have more knowledge of hookups. Just because you go and learn the knowledge, you have the knowledge of hookup does not mean you have the knowledge of marriage. Just because you ran away from Africa and you move to the Western culture does not mean you have more knowledge than the African man. You might be surviving better, or you might be in a society that seems more safer than the African society, and you are exposed to the routine of the Western culture. That doesn't mean that you are wiser than the person in the African culture. They have many ways they do their things. It does not change the fact that certain principles still stay. I don't care the evolution and the revolution and the rest of it. Looking at India right now, going to India, learning about their culture and traditions. If I go to a lot of countries, see, this is what I'm looking for. When I go to a lot of countries, I'm only interested in your culture and your traditions. Your culture and your traditions. That's only what I'm looking at. Because seeing your culture and your traditions, I see a little bit how you're living your life, how you make choices in your life. Okay, you said, I have not lived in Ghana or Egypt or Australia. I can't condemn, the culture or way of life in those places. How do I condemn the black culture? I said, there's a principle that helps you to get a good woman. Just because you are famous doesn't mean you have to pick up a lady who is also famous or glamorous. Is that an insult? When you want to get married to a woman, I say you have to find a woman. And to find a woman, you have to understand the culture and the traditions where she comes from, which it also simply means that you have to understand that the marriage and the union between both of you is not just between both of you, but between both families. How is that an insult? The black Americans, most black American, when you go on the platform, on social media platform, you see that most black men always talk about, oh, black. There's a guy they call Anthony something. This guy has been, I follow him on YouTube. He's a black guy. He lives in Texas. He has been with one woman and he has one daughter for over 20 years and they get married. He said he got married to her. She was a virgin and he is a virgin. But he knows her family. She knows her family. Now, there's an importance of also sacrificing to know the family of your people, so that perhaps there's a situation going on between your family, your wife, you and your wife. Her family can put her in check. Your family can put you in check. These are principles that make marriages last long. I'm not saying you go and complain to our family or our family complains to your family. But let's put it in this way. If I tell my wife that go and stay with your parents for more than 1 month, I don't want to stay with you, or start living alone, her parents call her every time. She calls her families every single time. And then they are going to ask, what about your husband? If she says her husband is not around, they would say, what's going on? Where are you staying? You should be in your husband's house. The same way, if I leave my house and I go somewhere and I'm living, I can be in a hotel, I can afford it. I can decide to start living in hotel every single day of my life. But my family will call me and tell me, why are you not with your children? Of choosing a wife in Yoruba land is different from Igbo land, difference in Hausa land and other ethnic groups. Now, last month is what? August. What date in August? My sister, I am from a Yoruba. My sister got married to an Igbo guy. Eric Onye something. Almost similar to your name. Eric. And they came to our place. My apartment was where we used for the traditional wedding. But at least they knew they are supposed to come. I live in Ogun State. They are to leave Lagos with their family. Our mother, the guy's mother, the guy's father, the guy's sisters, their family, big family as a whole, they all came. More than 4 cars, big cars filled with people. And I also, people from my family, we all came. I put some of the clips. The clips are in my short videos. Last month. They may look a little bit different. In their language, in their presentation, they may look a little bit different. But the principles are similar. If you want to get married to an Igbo lady, you may spend more. If you want to get married to a Yoruba, we don't request for too much. In the Igbo, they love to celebrate in a bigger way. And because Igbos love to celebrate in a bigger way, that's their culture. It says polygamy and out of wedlock family is common in a Yoruba and Hausa cultures. Now, I would only ask you a question. Are you married to a Yoruba or have you been married to an Hausa person? Have you been married to a Yoruba or an Hausa person? Yes, now, yes or no? You don't want to write. That's, you know what, where I'm actually going? I'm actually using your hand. I'm actually taking your hand and I'm bending it back to you. You said, I haven't been to the Western culture. So why can I bring my viewpoints on the Western culture? Now you said polygamy and out of wedlock family is common in Yoruba and Hausa culture. I know you are not married to Yoruba or Hausa, except you want to frame it up. At least if you are married in Yoruba, you wouldn't be married in Hausa. Out of the two, you can never be married from both. And so, if that is actually true, look at your viewpoint on the African culture. And you have not even met with those particular culture. Or you have one family member who experienced such in one culture, and now you are generalizing it that it is common in both Yoruba and Hausa culture. And now you are telling me that I'm not educated to talk about the Western culture. You see? Yoruba will say, Shora ye lode. This is the problem. This is the problem. Don't say I am myopic. Is that sentiment not myopic? Is that statement not myopic? How do you come up with it? People said it. I lived in Yoruba and grew up in the north. You lived in Yoruba and you grew up in the north. Spent some time in Lagos and have a lot of Yoruba friends here in the USA. You lived in Yoruba, you grew up in the north. Everybody knows you are just framing it up. What side of the north did you live in? What side of Yoruba land do you live in? And then tell me, I know you will Google it. You would have told me the location. Tell me who was the do you call it the king of those particular environments during the time that you were there? Or you were just spying on them, monitoring them. You were not knowing about the local government. You were just watching people's life. Because if I go to Texas, I want to know what did they call their name. You want to know the governors of those places. You want to understand the laws of those places. Morning, Mr. Rusty. I was born and raised in Kaduna. Your life is very complicated, sir. Your life is actually complicated. You being in the north, you are an Igbo, you've been to Yoruba land. There is no way you can have good experience when you just move from places to places, from places to places, from places to places. It traumatizes you. It traumatizes you. One thing I would have probably asked you, name 3 good things about the Northerners and name 3 good things about the Yoruba. 3 good things that you've learned in a positive way. Because see, this is one thing about me. I can go to the Western culture, I can debunk some negative things about it, and I can debunk some positive things about it. Because when your experience is solely on one particular side, on the negative experience, then you have no conversation when you're specifically talking about those individuals. Anyone who sees things from only one angle and does not see it from the other side, yes, that's why you say myopic. Mr. Rusty, how are you doing, sir? How are you feeling this morning, sir? I lived and worked in Surulere, Lagos. Traveling can only enhance your experiences and knowledge. Well, I followed Prince Lawrence. There's a man they call Prince Lawrence in Lekki. I followed him to Owerri. Those were my experiences in Owerri. Um, we stayed there for over 2 months. That's just my experience. And I love the Igbo culture. I love the way they do their things. Things in the Igbo land are a little bit more expensive. Now, as I speak, as of now, I love the Igbo people. Now, I know some negative things about Igbos because I believe every culture have negative things about them and they have positive things about them. No culture and tradition is perfect. I've asked you a question to name good things about the Igbo. Now, till date, my best friend in my life, both of them are Igbos. Good morning, Creed. My two best friends in my life, I have been with one guy in my life for over 17 years now. His name is Gideon. Gideon Boniface. I put the name out to you. That's my best friend for 17 years. Gideon Boniface is my best friend. The second one is in this same estate that I got my property. His name is Mr. Happy. Is it Oshime or Oshim or something like that? These are my two best friends that we have lived for a very long time and we have good relationship. Yeah. And now, I understand one thing about the Igbos because I grew up around Alaba, Lagos. And in the place I grew up in Alaba, I was born in Ajangbadi, Ojo local government area. I spent some time at Badagry, and now I moved to Ogun State. I'm from Ondo State. And I've been in Lekki also for a while. When I was in Alaba, I used to work at Alaba. And let me tell you, I did what we call Kaya. A village man who lived in his entire life within his village will be highly limited to things outside his village. I ask you a question. I ask you a simple question. Name good things about the Yoruba, the places you have been to. Name good things about them. Name good things about the Hausas when you said these people are this and this. You didn't name them. So you just came to crucify them. And you said I shouldn't have a view on the Western culture. And more Western people talk to me than they talk to you. Rusty says if anyone called my friends evil, they would have no. Okay, no F teeth left. I would consider that a joke. Until date, when we speak about politics in Nigeria, I am always talking about why are the Igbos not given chance to be part of the major side of politics in Nigeria. That's the good thing you see about Yorubas. Yoruba love to party, even if it means borrowing money for it. That's the good thing you see about Yoruba, or that's the bad thing you see about Yorubas. Oh. And I told you I'm a Yoruba, but you said I'm not open-minded. When someone pulls a trigger for me, I can be very calm. I can be very calm, but at the same time, I can be real. I can be very real. I love Igbos, and I've always mixed with Igbos all my life. I speak to a lot of most of my friends, most of the people I communicate with, a lot of them are in diaspora, either UK, Canada, Australia, many countries. And I discuss with these people to a deeper degree. In fact, they confide a lot of informations with me. I understand their family. I understand a lot of things about them. The only thing I may not know about them is what they do with their wife and how much they have in their account. But even their investments, all in Nigeria, in places I know. People who I speak to in diaspora that are not even in Nigeria, I know them. I talk a lot with a lot of people. And then you say I don't have a clue what I'm talking about. They tell me a lot of things about relationship stuff. If you have over 70 people talk to you about different countries and their experiences in different locations, and I discuss and I go on live and I watch a lot of things, I may not have the full information to generalize everything, but at least I can have a sense of what's going on. What could be going on. And so that's what I speak on. I haven't said Western people don't have this thing. Now, I was saying it yesterday that when I made a video and I talked about uh, how black women can make decisions to get married to an African man. Okay, most black women, or some black women, let me not say most, some black women do not have the opportunity to get married in the black culture simply because some of them are getting to their 40s and most men are not interested in them. Most of the black American men are not interested in them. And when you go to social media, you see what most black American men says about their women. As an African guy, as a Nigerian guy, when you see South African ladies, Kenya ladies, US ladies, a lot of people always talk about the African guys, that they love to date the African guys. And I'm like, okay, if you love to date the African guys, why not give it maybe since you have more resources, you can come over and study a little bit about the African culture. And in that, you can make great relationship with some. In fact, you might meet a man that you like. And there's a possibility of that happening. And because there's a possibility with that happening, now you can find a man who will love you for you. And the moment I begin to point that out, most of the black guys begin to get upset. Some of them will chat me, some of them will write on my page and this and that. And I'm like, most of you are going out to do passport bros. How many, when you look at the African culture, maybe Mr. Samoye Kwere, if you look at the African culture, do we have red pill community when we discuss on most social media things where we demonize women? How do we come to this particular kind of generations that most men, we now have negative view on women? In fact, it has become more or less generalized. And now, this morning, I heard that Tyrese was being arrested and is now in jail. And I'm saying, men needs to be cautious of the kind of woman you decide to stay with. And you need to understand the family she come from, understand the tradition she come from. I understand there could be laws. There are some crazy laws in this state that are not in Lagos State. In different states, there are kind of laws. If you go to Kaduna or Northern area, and perhaps you go and steal anything there, rather than most of them to take you to the station, they most likely will take you off. Anima Shaun is Surulere, Lagos. I work with a lot of Yoruba friends at NYC headquarters at Animashaun in Surulere, Lagos. Okay, he said Yorubas are very accommodating. A Yoruba friend assisted me in time of need until I got my feet, and we are best friends till date. Okay, but you know the answer looks a little bit suspicious because it came a little bit longer. If it was when I was asking and you put it out, I'll just say, okay, that's it. But I will take you for your word. But when it comes to the idea of the relationship, Lisa, good morning. Hello. Thanks for joining. So if you have good friends like that, now you have to speak. You can now speak on the culture. How long have you been with them? What did you understand in the culture? How long did you stay within that particular environment? What environment did you stay in? These are the things you can use to bring out valid points and say, okay, this specific place, this is specific place, this is specific place. Now, for me, I would generalize on few things on the informations that I have. And I'm saying that looking at us as Africans today, we don't say negative things. If you go on social media, women will say, oh, be careful of some Nigerian guys because our black women, with our African Nigerian ladies will say, be careful of some Nigerian guys who are Yahoo boys. They may want to just take advantage of you or stuff like that. That is a normal conversation. But most of them would not say that, oh, don't bother yourself to talk to Nigerian guys because Nigerian guys are no-go area. Some of them will say Yoruba guys are good, Igbo guys are friendly, Hausa guys, you should be careful or stuff like that. And we speak on the importance of us, regardless of our imperfections. And I'm saying with that, we don't paint ourselves so much in the negative light, even if the world has a bad perception about us in some ways. When you talk about Kenya ladies will tell you, oh, Nigerian guys are good. In fact, they'll tell you, don't date our men, we should date Nigerian guys. And when I spoke about it, I'm like, you better focus on dating your guys also. Just because you're having good relationship with some Nigerian guys doesn't mean you should ignore your men and focus on the Nigerian men. So when it comes to the black American culture, the same thing I say. And I tell most black women, I would say, if you're coming to Africa, if perhaps you consider or you have someone you're dating in Africa and you want that person to have a good relationship with you, there are certain things you need to know about the individual that will make the person take you very serious. And so when I say Tyrese, who found himself in jail because he cannot pay Ali, or because he did not pay child support, I'm saying that this thing is from the foundation, making the wrong choice of the kind of woman you choose. And to make the right choice of the kind of woman, what is wrong in you saying that I understand the law of my nation, I understand the law of my city. Because of this law, I have to do my due diligence. If I want to get married to a lady, I shouldn't just see a lady in the club and say she's beautiful and think that we can have a good relationship. Is there a possibility? Yes. But I would choose to live my life under possibility, not probability, because that is actually probability. Is there a probability? Yes. But what are the possibilities? You have to know where she comes from, her family, what are their principles, what are their cultures like, how are their views. If you go to a family where most of the grown-ups there are getting married, and you ask question, Why is this your sister married? Why is this one married? How long have this one been in relationship? And you see that most of them are flourishing uh, in that particular way. The chances that you would have a good relationship with this person is high. It doesn't mean there's no possibility that you and this individual will not separate. But it is easy for a woman to see you go to jail when she knows she really don't have family ties with your family. When she knows you do not have good family ties with her family. You both are strangers. Regardless of the fact that you are in a relationship, you are still strangers. And I always say this, you can't make a decision to also say that, oh, I want to have a wife. You are actually seeking for a wife, and then you pay more attention on sleeping with a street girl. If you're actually logical, you should take out your time to say, I need a wife in my life. And if you prioritize having a good wife in your life, you should be asking yourself, what are the systems you have to put together to make sure that your relationship flourish after you have done your due diligence? Because it's going to change you one way or the other. Oh, Rusty. Amen. But trust me, Lisa will prefer something else. But I'm just joking. Mazin Nnamdi Kalu still in custody. Sunday Igboho walking free. Fulani terrorists are free. Where is the justice? That's a different conversation, but I understand where you are going. And your point is very valid when it comes to looking at the African home. My question sometimes is that how united are people on situations like this? Now, I have said it over and over again that majority of the things that are going on within the nation, that's the Yoruba and the Hausas, are hijacking the political space and are taking the Igbos out. Now, I understand their viewpoint, but I don't think they should have held on to it for too long. And even while I found myself in different situations, I have always been on the ground. Even if you look at my previous video, Igbos are supposed to have the right to make a decisions to say, we are tired. Nationality and have good relationship. You see, this is it. When you go here, I like to go here with you, and then you switch to this other side. People marry outside their race and nationality and have good relationships. I'm not saying that's not true. I'm not saying that's not true. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm actually saying is that how many men are actually doing their due diligence? How many men are actually doing their due diligence? I have a lot of friends, okay? They are married to different people in UK, and they have their wife and their real family in Nigeria here. I have many of them as friends. They have children in the UK, in the US, in Canada, but they establish another family in Nigeria here. And you know why they are afraid? Deep down inside of them, they are like, we can't lead our children right. The government are not giving us space to lead our children right. Some of them, they are separated from their wife in the Western culture, but they can't let their wife know they are willing to get married. Because the only reason why their wife is still leaving them around to still be able to do one or two things is basically because she thinks he has no woman in his life. So whenever they come to Nigeria, they enjoy their life. They establish great families here, have children, and the rest of it. So you might consider that to be a good relationship because the man is not expressing himself. And basically because he was there simply because of for him to have resources. Most of them are investing, buying houses. Some of them have 3 to 4 houses in this estate, buying in different places. And the moment they have everything they want, they will step away and come back to Nigeria. So some people might see it, oh, because they are laughing and they are not saying anything. You might consider that to be good relationship until the men are ready. Why? Good morning, Miss Annie Ron. Yeah. So later today's evening, we will continue from where we stop because this time there has to be part 2. Lisa says that's awful. Yeah. And the reason is that majority, if not all of them, because I don't know anyone that is different, majority of these guys have relationship with the snow bunny. Please, if you understand the meaning of snow bunny by Dr. Umar Johnson, and they have to come to Africa, Nigeria here to get married. I'm just putting out the fact. I'm just putting out the truth. You know, in some countries, for example, like what we saw in the UK the other time, the guy was born in the UK, but when he committed a crime, he was referred to what? A black guy from Rwanda. Just because you are born in a nation does not mean that they totally accept you. They totally accept you when you are a law-abiding citizen. The moment you do something wrong, they refer you back to where you come from. Okay. Rusty, this is what I said. The guy who did those crazy stuff, stabbing those babies, was born in the UK. Not born in, and he was born in Cardiff. Read about Awolowo's involvement in Nigeria's independence crisis he created in the West between him and Akintola. He was the cause of the 1966 coup, the death of millions of children. Awolowo slash Akintola. Don't tarnish me, the whole UK, with the same brush. Okay. Now, they said actually that he was born in Cardiff, and they said he's a British citizen. No, I'm not muted. I was speaking to Chat GPT to give me information. I hope you can hear me now. Am I still muted? Aha. So I was actually looking at the Wikipedia, and it says that the man involved in the stabbing that led to riots in the UK was Alex Muganwa Rudakubana. He was born in Cardiff, Wales, and his family is originally from Rwanda. The attack took place at a children's workshop in Southport in late July 2024. And it resulted in the death of 3 children and serious injuries to others. Although there was widespread misinformation about his identity and background. Widespread of misinformation about his identity and background. The authorities confirmed he was a British citizen with no links to terrorism. The attack sparked outrage and there was riot fueled by false claims about immigration and the identity of the attacker. So you see, we have too many misinformation. I really don't use Twitter. Awolowo introduced the £20 policy, irrespective of what one had before the war, in order to punish the Igbos. Samuel Kwere, my question would have also been, trust me, I understand you and I agree with you completely, but my question would have also been that, do you think that the Igbos are united? And most likely they are not united. But are the Igbos united? Because even when Nnamdi Kalu is fighting for Biafra, decides to fight for his people, who are the people occupying the importations to Nigeria in electronics and gadgets? Alaba. Who are the majority in Alaba international markets? Nojo area. Sometimes the future of certain individuals dwells in the hands of the group of people. If you want to change certain narration, the people have to come together to make it work. The same thing applicable when we talk about, and this is why when I started the conversation this morning, I was like, for us to be able to have good relationship, and what brought up to this conversation this morning was about the issue of Tyrese. And the issue of Tyrese is the fact that he was in jail for not paying child support. Rusty, that's true. And if he did not pay child support, I was like, yes, we understand that what the lady probably did was terrible. But it doesn't change the fact that most of these men who find themselves in big positions in life or in famous place, they make the wrong choice by the kind of woman they choose. I cannot complain when I date a prostitute and she sleeps on my bed and the next morning she steals my jewelries and she run away. If a man does not know how to pick the right woman in his life, he should understand that if he has children with this particular woman, there are chances that he will pay child support due to the state's law. So in Nigeria, we don't have such laws here. We don't really take that serious. Prenup, no prenup. Nigerians, Africans don't give a damn about it. But I'm saying, if in your country there's a law that says that you will pay alimony or child support and the rest of it, shouldn't you be more sensible or more logical in the choice you want to make with the kind of woman you want in your life? And most people do not pay attention to it. You pick up any kind of woman and you date her. And I was saying there are certain principles that helps you to get a good woman in your life. Now, it doesn't mean that you can go to the club and you might not find a good girl. You might go to the club and find a good girl. You might go to the hotel and find a good girl. But what are the chances that if you go to the club and you go to the party, you will find a good girl? Is there a probability? Yes. But what are the possibilities and the chances of getting good ladies in the club? Okay. Yeah. So I'm like, if you want a woman, Tyrese deserves everything he's getting because he's a colorist and would never date a marry a woman that looks like himself. It is karma and hating his own. These are part of the points that I was making. That he has to be able, men have to be able. If I am a black American man, for example, I would be very careful. And as long as I make a decision before I blame the black American woman, I would I would be very careful of the woman I decide to get married to. By knowing where she comes from, knowing her history. And I'm not saying, like Sam Onyekwere said earlier, he said that good children come from bad family and bad children come from good family. And I agree with that. But I said, what are the chances? So when you pick a lady from the street and you just date her, and you understand that in some places, like this guy Israel Adesanya, is he in Netherlands? He dated the lady, and after he dated the lady for 2 years, because there are some laws that if you date a lady for more than some years, then automatically she kind of have a way to, penetrate some stuff. But unfortunately, Israel Adesanya was already investing in Nigeria more. So I'm saying, know the family of the woman. And with that being said, if you know the family of the woman, you know where she comes from, and also understand that while you're getting married to the woman, you're getting married to her family also. There is colorism in a lot of black American families as a result of conditioning from slavery over generations. Samoye Kwere, when you said something that Yorubas, Hausas don't have Yoruba cultural or family groups in the USA and in Western world, I absolutely agree with you. The only thing is this. The reason why I think they don't have over there is because they are comfortable in having those same group meeting in Nigeria here. The Igbos might have it all over the world. But the question is that, you see, when the situation is going on with Nnamdi Kalu, how many Igbos are actually supporting? There's a difference between everybody claiming something And there's a difference between people actually showing by actions. Today, we are going to continue on the part two. We are going to continue on the part two of our conversations of yesterday around 7 p.m. African time. When will you stop blaming slavery for the actions of modern people? Okay, that's what Rust is asking. Is we're able to bounce back and overtake the other groups if they are not united. You're right. But one thing that you most likely would have acknowledged also is that yes, they bounce back because of their entrepreneurship spirit. The only thing you can also ask yourself is the reason why they can't be successful in having Biafra is maybe mostly because they are not united, or Yorubas and Hausas are more powerful than the Igbos. It is out of those two choices. Either the Igbos are not united enough, or the Yorubas and the Hausas are more powerful than the Igbos, and that's why they are unable to pull the trigger and win. It is either both of them. Because when you go to Lagos, for example, Lagos is Igbo spirit and slogan is "Don't leave your brother behind." Yes, because when you look at the Igbos, for example, one of the things Nnamdi Kalu was most likely looking at is okay, in the Igbos there are no airports there. I think if the union of Igbos are merged together, they can build the Igbo land. Because, in fact, we can agree on one thing: Igbos are one of the most richest people in Nigeria, if not even Africa. Igbos are very united in the idea of making money, but are they united also in building their state? When you come to Lagos, you would realize that a lot of Igbos have more powerful houses in Lagos that tends to be the Yoruba land than the kind of building they invest in the Igbo land. Most big houses in Lekki, in Lagos, Igbos own those houses. Most big organizations, Igbo owns it. The biggest international market is filled with Igbos. Alaba market is filled with Igbos. The question is, why are they not putting that same resources in the Igbo land? All these things are just blame game, blame game, blame game, blame game. I'm not good at it, even though I know how to do it. Some people do not believe in one Nigeria. If you do not believe in one Nigeria, what are you actually doing to be able to get exactly what you're looking for? Yoruba is least powerful, and that's why they were sacred of the Hausa attack to have their own nation in 1966. You are right. But the current president of Nigeria is a Yoruba person. Obasanjo Yaradua. Um, what did they call his name? Buhari, Tinumbu, Awolowo. Look at all these people. They have always held the position of power. If they've been held in the position of power, and you say they are not powerful. If they are not powerful, then Igbo should have been free by now. You see, sometimes the problem, sometimes we don't have the real thing to defend ourselves, yet we just make decisions to do that. The current person is a rigger and see the condition of Nigeria. Leave that. See, there are bad leaders everywhere. Let us leave. Let's just ask ourselves. We are talking about the political space. You said, see what Buhari did to Nigeria. That's not what. You see, we are talking about the freedom of the Igbos. I think that was what the conversation was going on. You are talking about Igbos. Perhaps the Igbos get their freedom. You would also see bad leaders in Igbos. And one thing that Rusty says when it comes to the idea of slavery, I am always, I would always be in support with some things that Rusty says. And one of the view that I share with Rusty is the idea of we don't have to dwell in the past because we have the presence with us. Holding on to the past would not make us push forward. But let us not also ignore the past. We don't know if Igbos will be the savior of Nigeria. It was horrible, yes. To live in 2024 and acting oppressed, though, is cringe as F. Okay. Now, when Eniron was talking about slavery, I think what she was pointing out to was the idea that there's something that I've made up in the black culture. Who is acting oppressed? Right? Okay. What she's trying to say is what's the things that have happened in the past is part of the effect of right now, but but the black people are supposed to be able to, do some works. Would I call it works? I be work. They should be able to do some work to be able to make some choices when it comes to relationship. That was what she was actually referring to. In reality, when I talk about culture and when I talk about tradition, I'm talking about our ancestral past and I'm talking about our roots. And so we cannot ignore our past talking about the present or the future. Our past is what has led us to this place. We have to identify our past and then make decisions to work on it right now and move forward. Okay, Mr. Rusty, I want to read something to you. I hope you are ready. Now, what I want to read to you is about colorism in Black American culture. Colorism in Black American culture refers to the preferential treatment and discrimination based on skin tone, typically favoring lighter skinned individuals over those with darker skin. This form of prejudice, rooted in both historical and systemic racism, particularly dating back to slavery and segregation, affects many aspects of life in the Black community, including beauty standards, employment opportunity, and social status. During slavery, lighter skinned Black people, often the mixed race children or of white slave owners, were sometimes given less physically demanding work, such as working in the house rather than in the fields. This legacy of lighter skin being associated with privilege has persisted and manifests in various ways today. For example, lighter skinned Black individuals might be viewed as more attractive or desirable both socially and professionally, while darker skinned individuals often face negative stereotypes or harsher judgments. Thank you, Uchi from India. Just I can't pronounce your name. Sorry for that. And so, what she was referring to, thank you, my brother from India. What she was referring to actually exists. It has become rooted in the culture. Okay, Obito. Okay, Obito, that's the last name. All right, I will refer to you as that. Thank you very much. And you get mm, hard. Rusty, when I see your message that the YouTube kind of held down, and what I would say is this. Trust me, I agree with you on many things, but we need to also identify truth in certain areas. Yeah. This is not about she hating. This is you identifying certain issues. This is identifying certain issues. Now, let's put it in this perspective. Rusty, you are in the UK. I, from this place, am from Africa, Nigeria specifically. Now, if we have to make a decision to resolve issues in the Black culture, let's say both of us have good opinion and we are educated, and we want to give the Black people any idea or opinion to help them flourish as people, should we ignore their history? And if we have solutions to it, what are we going to say that will be the solution? Just move on. Truth is, 2024 still living in the past and using the past to make out your opinions today and valid. They are not. I'm asking you a question. When a Chinese, this is one thing about people. We do not understand. I always understand my boundaries around most subjects. I always know my boundaries around most subjects. There are some things we cannot. You see, the problem of life is this. Sometimes we overlean on one side, and when you overlean on one side, you are going to miss the picture. No matter how informed you are, no matter how educated you are, no matter whatever you think about, if you lean on one side, you will miss the picture. You must be able to see from both sides. It is just the only alternative. We cannot say, when I ask ChatGPT about, to the channel, bro. Thank you, Obito. When we decide to talk about the experience of the black people, when we are talking about relationship standard, we need to also identify the root cause of these things. And if we deny, a Chinese man that comes to Nigeria knows his boundaries, knows he would not be treated fairly in certain things. When a black man goes to India or goes to China, he must know his boundaries also. If you're a white person from maybe Canada or UK or Australia, and you come to Nigeria, there are certain rights you don't also have. Like in Nigeria, if you're from certain places, they may not allow you to own a particular amount of land, or to even give you certain property to say that is with you for life, except you find a way to work certain things out. So we shouldn't ignore the fact that these things actually exist. If we act like, oh, everything, it's not, this particular statement is not coming from the idea of, oh, racism and the rest of it. It's coming from the fact, like, we can identify the root cause of these particular issues. They are like celebrities because they come from foreign countries. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. In some places, some foreigners will be celebrated. In some places, some foreigners would not be celebrated. Now, for example, if someone from the UK, if you're a white person and you come to Nigeria and you go to the bank, they would mostly, no matter the queue, they would answer you first before they answer Nigerians. They would try to attend to you first before they attend to Nigerians. But that doesn't also mean that on other ground, there are things that wouldn't happen. So that's racism in one way or the other. Either we say it is not racism, there's racism in certain ways. Our perception in life is for the fact that we can see on 3D dimension or 3 dimension. And if we can see from 3 dimensions, some of our decisions will be based off what we can physically identify. Foreigner hospitality is evident in many countries because they want the tourism to grow. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's it. But it's still there. It's not racism unless you are the Nigerian waiting for the food, I guess. You're right. But what I'm saying is this. They are actually giving you those privilege basically because they want something. Every one of us are impressed. Okay, Obito says, I took a photo with them as well. They are so taller than us and stronger and fresh. Okay, every one of us impressed by them. Us Indian are short. I am only 5'6" myself, which is actually average height. Absolutely. Well, I think Mr. Rusty, there are some things, there are some subjects that we have to be able to consider certain things. Yes, I do not support when people hold on to it like I think it was Canary King the other time when you were having those issues on. We can't hold on to those particular things that have happened in the past, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't identify them either. We should identify them when we see them play stuff. What she was saying is that the issue of the things that happened with Tyrese was basically because of the kind of choice they make, and those choices is for the fact that if it was a black woman who was mostly suing a black man, there might be a different way they would approach it in the US. But when it is a white woman or a different skin tone color making this request for child support, she would have certain privileges. And that's what she's saying. Even in Nigeria, yeah, those things happen. During the time when there was a Buhari, if an Hausa person is connected a little bit and was being arrested, before you know, the person will be out. Samuel Yekwere says that is the effect of bribery and profiting. Yes. But a Yoruba will pay more. An Igbo man will pay more during the time of Buhari. An Igbo man will pay more. A Yoruba man will pay more. An Hausa might not pay that much. And he will be left scot-free. So we might say it's bribery, but there's certain privilege that is attached to it. With that being said, I have a lot of stuff to do. I try to hold on for this long. Please, we are going to continue on our conversation yesterday, where people say that women cannot be leaders. So I'm giving you time. Do your research. Gather all your facts and figures why women cannot be leaders. Gather it all. 50, 100, 200 people, you are all welcome. The time is 12:29 p.m. African time. Okay, it's 5 p.m. This is evening for you guys. Thanks to Nigerian judiciary and the government. Let us identify. See, one thing I understand is this. There is no place I find myself that I don't know how to survive. All Nigerians, most of us know these things. Some of us don't, but most of us know these things. US is not Africa. Absolutely. It's 6 a.m. and earlier in US, depending what part. Yeah, in US, depending what part. So I have no debate. I just share positivity. Yeah, that's good. Obito. Sometimes we just try to have good conversations on this platform. You know, brush up ideas, learn from each other. We might disagree, and then we find a way to agree. At the end of the day, on this platform, the most important thing we do is we share love, even after we quarrel and we fight. It's as simple. So thanks for joining. Yeah. So by 7 p.m. African time, Nigerian time specifically, we are going to continue our conversation on why women can be leaders. For those who hold on to that part that women can be leaders, please everybody come, because I have a lot of questions. I have a lot of stuff that we would look at, and then we will come to a good conclusion at the end of the day. I got no idea of American history, but it's interesting. My brother, it is very interesting. Very interesting. Close the globe, signing contracts in foreign languages. Uh, it truly is. Yeah. All right, please. Let me read a few things. I will never agree to blaming slavery for colorism today. LOL. People have their own opinions, yet when not the same as others, blame slavery. It's easier to accept. LOL. That's creed. It does sound like that. It sounds like that. It's a complicated issues. It's a complicated issue. You know, like like Rusty says earlier, some people will blame slavery, some people wouldn't. But I think that if you come from those particular places, you need to be able to identify where you come from, identify the challenges in your place. When Samuel Yekwere is speaking, he's also speaking on based of the things that he identified. The problem is that some people would identify these things and they are not willing to, they just hold on to the trauma side of it and they are not willing to move on. There are people who would move on. So hopefully this evening we are going to have good conversations, mixing it up with can women be great leaders? And I have too many points to use to tackle it. And I believe at the end of the day, we will disagree. Of course, in my view, women can definitely lead. There are too many proofs. You know, calling all this Cleopatra and the rest of it, it is a big subject. So we have to bring it back to reality of what is actually going on. There are statistics to back it up. There are things to back it up. All promoting heavily mixed race breeding. All right, see you all by 7:30 p.m. 7:30 p.m. African time, Nigerian time specifically. Have a great day. Please do take care of yourself. It's time for me. This is almost 1. I haven't done anything. Adios, amigos. Bye bye for now.